Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zas Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in again in my fortnightly episodes. Hope everyone's been having a sick week. It's been freaking cold in Sydney for the past, probably the last week, I'd say now. It's been absolutely freezing. And yeah, I hope it's not like that in the other places that I know there's people around the world that are listening. So hopefully it's nice and sunny where you guys are. It's fucking rainy where we are. But anyway, as you've probably seen from the title, I want to talk about augmented reality and virtual reality and just kind of touch base on virtual reality, but not really really talk about augmented reality, not VR. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because I've been noticing a product. I've noticed it for a while, and I've been thinking about making a podcast about this for a while. And I figured, why not? It's about the Apple Vision Pro, and the Apple Vision Pro is this new product that's come to market from Apple and essentially uses augmented reality, mixed reality, or virtual reality. It's more mixed reality, but it can be VR as well. And I'll get into why it's probably a little bit more VR than it is AR. But anyway, um, yeah, the Apple Vision Pro has just come out, and I personally think this is the step that we're taking to making a lot of things redundant. So this is going to be the branch that we take, and it's going to revolutionize technology in the future. I'm a big believer that augmented reality is the future. Huge believer about that. I think it has it has not one of the most, but it has the most potential to have the greatest impact in all industries across everywhere around the world. Not just, if people have watched my previous podcast, I believe it's episode 8 with Peter Cox, where I talk about surveying and we talk about the survey industry. I kind of say that augmented reality is going to replace traditional, conventional methods of surveying. And that is replacing the total station. I truly believe that. Now, whether it happens within the next 10 years or happens within 10 years, I'm not so confident about that, but I believe it will. So within 10 years, within 20 years, I'm hoping within 10 years. That's what I said on the podcast. I said in the next 10 years, AR is going to replace conventional methods of surveying, because I just think there's just so much potential, and just the efficiency and like everything about augmented reality just makes sense. And not just in surveying, but in every industry. And I'll get into it. So Apple Vision Pro is this augmented reality product. And for those who have seen, it's not as exactly a pair of glasses. It's a big set of goggles. It's made out of metal. It's very well made from what I've seen. And I've been watching a lot of videos from, YouTube influencers or YouTube tech reviewers. A big one, for those who don't already know who, I'm sure a lot of people know him, is MKBHD. And he does a review about the Apple Vision Pro. And I agree with what he says. And one of the things that he says is that the Apple Vision Pro is essentially ground zero. This is the first piece of tech. It's kind of like the first of its kind. There are other augmented reality devices out there, but this is the first of its kind to be really good at what it does. Right? So it trying not to get tongue twisted, but the Apple Vision Pro just looks amazing. It's very expensive. It's about $3,500 for the headset. But like you said, this is Gen Zero. This is Gen Zero of the augmented reality technological era. And I believe the AR technological era is not only going to replace total stations, but it's going to replace a lot of things. And one thing that is definitely going to be replaced is something that you're probably watching on right now, either being your TV or your mobile phone, or screens if you're on a computer, if you're on a computer monitor. Obviously, the technology isn't there right now and it's not going to replace it. But looking at the Apple Vision Pro, you can see the trajectory of where it's going. You can see that once you put on the goggles, you have panels, so you can also see the world around you. That's essentially what augmented reality is. Augmented reality. Actually, I should probably explain to people what augmented reality and virtual reality is before I go into it. So augmented reality is pretty much merging the real world and the digital world together. So you'll be able to see your surroundings, but you also see digitized content. So you'll be able to see text messages, videos that pop up on your set of goggles in your screen, and also see people around you, right? That's augmented reality. So you're not in a completely virtual world. You're in reality, but you have a virtual presence. Virtual reality is a completely virtual world with absolutely zero real world presence, right? So the best way to describe it is the movie Ready Player One. Ready Player One is a completely virtual world. That is literally virtual reality. Now, I want to touch base about probably later in the podcast about whether I think that type of virtual reality could even be achievable. I personally think it won't be, but hopefully I'll touch on that later on in the episode. But I want to get back into the augmented reality. So now that you guys know what it is, Apple's been doing that. So they've got a headset and you can see they've got 3 different panels, and you can watch a video here, and you can be chopping your onions and chopping your food here, and you can get a text message here, and it's got like so many different cameras around within the goggles that wherever you look, it can actually trace your eye to see where you're looking at, and very, very accurately as well. There's a bit of calibration involved, but obviously you need to know what it's looking at. And from what I've seen from reviewers, the eye tracking is absolutely mental. What you're looking at is crazy. And then the way to interact with apps or to interact with the digital media that's within the AR, within the goggles, you just pinch. Now, I don't really know how that works, if you have to have your hand within the goggles so it can see you pinch, or if you can just keep your hand here and pinch. I actually not quite familiar with how that works, but doesn't really matter. It's more so the idea of being able to have all your digital media in front of you, right? So you've got all your screens in your goggles, as well as your media around you, as well as your real world presence around you. So why do you need a mobile phone? Why do you need a screen? Why do you need a computer? I can literally see everything through my headset. Now, granted, obviously these goggles are a little bit impractical because from what I seem to understand, they're actually quite heavy. Very well built, but quite heavy. You couldn't imagine walking around with a set of goggles all day. That I think it's about, from what I seem to understand, actually, I'd be butchering it. I don't even know what the weight is. So I'd recommend you guys look it up. But it's not exactly lightweight, right? And if you can see all the applications that you can on your phone in your augmented reality device, why do you need a mobile phone? If I can see text messages popping up, I won't need a mobile phone to pull out. Like, that's going to be an inconvenience for people now. Imagine. This is how I see the future. Now, obviously, technology's got a long way to go before it gets to this point, but imagine just having a set of glasses. And in those glasses, and Mark Zuckerberg actually spoke about this on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he goes, augmented reality, the idea is you have a set of glasses and you'll be able to see all your content pretty much in front of you, as well as see the world around you as well. So you'll be able to see your text messages, you'll be able to see your computer monitors, you'll be able to watch movies and all that sort of stuff. So if you could see everything through a set of glasses, then imagine coming home and you want to watch a movie, and you want to watch with whoever, your partner, whoever that may be, your friends, whatever, okay? And you're on the couch and you're both sitting there and watching TV, but you also had like a little monitor as well with a sports channel there, or you had a little YouTube video, or you had a text message, and then you just pull it up, just quickly write a message, and then with the way AI is getting right now, you can just tell it what you want to say. The way augmented reality, or especially Apple's version of the Apple Vision Pro of augmented reality, you can see the direction that it's going in. Now, what else? In my personal opinion, it's going to replace all screens. I can see the way the future is going to be right now. I can see that when I play games, I'm not even going to have my two monitors anymore. I'm literally going to put on my goggles, put on my glasses. I'm still going to have my keyboard and mouse because I still feel like I need to be feeling and controlling something with my mouse, or, controlling something while I'm in game or while I'm scrolling through the internet. And there'll probably be other ways that you can do it, using your fingers and whatever. And literally just looking through my goggles and then my screen is there. And not only can I just have one screen, I could have 5 screens. I could have 10 screens. It doesn't matter how many screens. I can just include so many. And that's probably one of the best things about augmented reality, is the fact that you can just manipulate digital data in the real world. And I don't need to limit myself to the physical world. I don't need to limit myself to just having a 24-inch monitor. I could have 10, 50-inch monitors. Obviously, it's overboard, but I'm never going to do something like that. But I could have 3 27-inch monitors spaced out exactly and in the most perfect way I can. Perfect way in depth, height, wherever. I can then choose, I might not want like 27, I might want 24.75 inches. I can be very, very specific. And the screen in my glasses is like this big. But in my perception, the way I see it, it's 27 inches, it's 32 inches. And it doesn't just stop at computer monitors. It's, your mobile phones, your text messages, scrolling through the internet, everything's going to be in front of your face. And it doesn't just stop at your mobile phone. It can go to TV screens. It can go to your work application as well. Being able to see every digital thing that's been created through your glasses. Now, will it ever get to that stage? I believe it will eventually get to that stage. It's got a long way to go. Obviously, right now, we've got big, bulky sort of headsets right now. And a lot of you guys are probably thinking, well, it's never going to get there, right? Technology is never going to advance that far enough that we're going to get to that point. You could say the same thing about mobile phones. We've got so much power within our mobile phone that we can do video recording, photos. I'm right now recording on my phone at 4K. That would have been unheard of 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was using a Motorola Razr. Actually, no, that's a lie. I think I was using a Samsung S2. I think it was something like that. But 4K recording on my Samsung, no chance I would have been doing that. And even before that, I had a little Nokia. And then before that, and if we can rewind time all the way back to the first creation of the mobile phone, which was, and I've got it right there, the 3rd of April, 1973, the first handheld mobile phone was demonstrated by Martin Cooper of Motorola in New York City on the 3rd of April, 1973, using a handset weighing 2 kilos. Geez, that's a big boy. That's a big phone. And what's that, 83? It's about 50 years, right? So 83, 93, 03, 13, 23. Yeah, so it's been 50 years since the creation of the mobile phone. And look at it where it is right now. And I'm not suggesting that, like, from the start, the first mobile phone was, all it was able to do was to make phone calls. Okay? So now mobile phones can scroll the internet, can video record, take photos, text messages, make phone calls, stream YouTube, stream music. I can call people from around the world. I'm pretty sure that was unheard of back in 1973. Or it might have been. I'm not 100% sure. Or it would have been very, very expensive. But I think you can understand where I'm coming from. It's been 50 years of development with the mobile phone, and 50 years is a long time. Like, to say that in 10 years, it's going to be a set of glasses that people are just going to be wearing is maybe not 10 years, probably close to maybe 20 years in the future. That might be a thing, but it's definitely going to get there. Now, I was listening to a podcast, and big shout out to Hex from the Optic Podcast. He has a lot of interesting thoughts, and he was saying something about nanotechnology. Now, I'm not completely familiar with nanotechnology, but he was saying, imagine that instead of wearing glasses, it's just going to be a contact lens that you put on your eye, and you can switch it on and off. Now, I don't know how that's going to work because I can just imagine it glitching. Like all of a sudden, the contact lens just starts wigging out. And it starts like, with the screen when it's buggy and it starts like going in and out, in and out. You're like fucking trying to smack your head to make it work again. I don't know if contact lenses is a good idea, but he brings up an interesting thought. Could it get to that point? And I don't see why it couldn't. If nanotechnology could get there and create tech like that, hell yeah, why not? Yeah, I think augmented reality has huge potential. I think that with the way things are going now, it's going to replace a lot of different things in the industry. It's going to replace a lot of different methods in surveying. I believe I have an idea on actually how we can implement augmented reality in surveying and how we can make it a lot more efficient. I can imagine it's going to cost millions of dollars on R&R to get it actually to the point where it's usable. But, if anyone's listening from Leica or from Trimble and they want to try and collaborate, I'd be more than happy to collaborate with you guys and try and build this together if you are interested at all. Probably not if you're listening to this. But hey, man, I love doing this. I love talking about this sort of stuff. I have a lot of different ideas that I think with regards to technology, and yeah, AR's, my opinion, it's the future. Now, I want to go back to virtual reality, right? I don't believe virtual reality has a huge presence. Well, I think when a lot of people think of virtual reality, they definitely think of Ready Player One. Now, do I think Ready Player One going to be something that is actually achievable? I personally don't think that will be an achievable thing. And the reason why is when you watch Ready Player One and you're watching the way he performs in the movie and the stuff he performs in the movie, like driving cars and like jumping across like skulls and dead people and like floating in the air and dancing with that other character, which I can't remember to save my life, but it's one of my favorite movies and I can't believe I actually forgot the character. But it starts with A. It starts with A. Anyway, it's going to kill me for the whole podcast now. I'm going to be thinking about it the whole time. But just being able to do those acts, because for you to do those acts in the game, you kind of have to do it in real life. And how's that going to feel in real life? How are you going to create that? How are you going to create superhuman-like abilities? Because that's essentially what it is. Being able to sort of float. Well, that's not really superhuman. Like to be able to float in space. That might be something that we can achieve, but how do you recreate flight? How do you recreate super speed? Because that's what essentially these guys are saying is you can recreate, or they're recreating a virtual world. And what a lot of people want to do is be able to fly. And a perfect example of that is when the samurai character ends up having that glove and he turns into one of the Gundam robots and he's flying and he's got like a freaking laser sword and he's fighting Mechagodzilla and he's doing all this crazy stuff. And I was just thinking, how would you be able to create that? Like you can see they've got like in some of the, like at the start of the movie, you see them attach themselves to like these, I don't know what it's called, but it's, yeah. So they can run in any direction. They can jump. They can, I don't know if they can slide or not, but I think you get the idea. And I just don't know if they can recreate those things. There's going to be limitations. You'll be able to do a lot of different things. Probably being able to play a game like Call of Duty or maybe even Uncharted, maybe. Like, how do you recreate climbing something? How do you recreate that? How do you do that in real life? Because when you're doing it in real life, you're feeling it and you're pushing on something. How do you do that in a game? The only way I can sort of think of how that can become a reality is there'd have to be a service where they would have to invest hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into a facility that can help recreate the physical elements or virtual elements into a physical world so it can feel like you're in the game. I don't know, man. It's just, don't get me wrong, I love the idea of Ready Player One. Ready Player One is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love the idea of being able to have a virtual world and pretty much do whatever you want. But whether or not that's a real thing and a reality, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's if that's going to be achievable. But augmented reality is 100% achievable. 100% achievable. And it will replace a lot of different technology. And honestly, I think it will make technology a lot better. Probably a lot of people aren't going to like the idea of probably having like a SIM card in the glasses, which is right next to your head and you're wearing that all day. That might be a problem. I'm sure they'll probably figure out something in the future where it will be safe. But that's the future's problem, I guess. But that's just my 2 cents about augmented reality. I think Apple's taking the right approach. It's $3,500 US, mind you, for the Apple Vision Pro. And like MKBHD said, that is not for the mass population. At the moment, it's definitely not for the mass population. That's probably close to about $5,000 Australian to be able to buy that. And that's going to be available next year, from what I seem to understand. And, a lot of the direction about where augmented reality is going to go, or the way that product's going to be pushed, is going to be through the early adopters of that type of technology. And I wish I could get my hands on that technology, because one thing he said, which I thought was super interesting, was he goes, I can imagine wearing those goggles and being courtside at a basketball game. And I just went, oh my God, imagine that. Imagine, and credit to him, it's not like you're going to get the atmosphere of actually being courtside at a real basketball game. Obviously, you're not going to recreate that. But if you could spend $20, $10 to be able to be courtside and watch the game and feel like you're in the game and see everyone and watch and do all these different things, that's just one of the applications. Why is it just limited to being courtside? It'll be, being able to fly, be in the pilot suite, or, a whole bunch of different things. It's just not limited to, excuse me, to just that experience. But, some people will probably never be able to afford courtside tickets. I can imagine they're probably thousands of dollars, and, there's going to be some things that I'm probably never going to be able to afford. So to be able to have that experience and be able to pay, $10, $20 to go and watch a courtside. I can watch a courtside game here in Australia. How awesome would that be? I'd love to go. I would actually pay $10 to $20 to be, I don't know what a good place to watch the Super Bowl would be, because Super Bowl is crazy expensive. And from what my friends have been telling me, or friends that I've known who have gone over to America to watch the Super Bowl, they spend thousands of dollars to get tickets, and it's a full day thing. And, to be able to maybe spend $10, $20 just to see what that experience is like, it's obviously not going to beat the real thing, and people need to understand that. But instead of spending thousands of dollars to be able to go over there, watch the game in real life, and do all that different things, and I can just watch $10 and watch it from home, literally from the other side of the world, and feel like in quotations that I'm at the game. That would be crazy. I don't think I would ever see myself going to a gridiron game, but I would spend $10, $20 to go watch a gridiron game if it was that cheap, honestly. And I wouldn't just limit myself to, to just gridiron, or they call it football. I wouldn't just limit myself to that. I'd probably go and watch a Premier League game, and I would pay $10, $20 to watch, a Premier League grand final game with my virtual reality headset. That would be absolutely crazy. And that's what I mean. The augmented reality it's just not limited to just one application of screen. It's crazy. And a lot of people are probably going to say, that's not augmented reality, that's more virtual reality. And you would be right, because you kind of want to be immersed in the event. You don't want to be seeing the background. You want to feel like you're there. So yeah, I can understand that for sure. But yeah, it's just augmented reality is the future. It'll be interesting to see what the next 10, 20 years have in, with Apple and all these other different tech companies coming up with different ideas. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of different apps that are going to come out with, for VR headsets, for AR headsets. There's already apps right now that are being made for this type of technology. There's already people who are probably waiting for the perfect moment to release the application and then just jump on it and just jump on marketing and do all these crazy different things. And it's a good idea. I have an idea for an AR application right now. Whether or not it will be successful or not, I have no idea. But I have an idea for one. And you wouldn't be wrong to be thinking about applications like that. Because in my opinion, it is the future. And I think people who are hesitant and think AR isn't going to take over, I think are completely wrong, because there's just so much application involved with augmented reality. It's got a long way to go though. They have to really it has to be, for it to be usable, it has to be a set of glasses, or a thick set of glasses that isn't going to weigh 300 kilos and feel like your face is going to fall off. So there's a long way to go, a lot of design happening. But I just wanted to touch on that. I just wanted to have a little bit of a chat about augmented reality. Hopefully, if anyone's listening and they're an expert in AR, VR, or whatever, I can get them on the show and really pick their brain about augmented reality, what they think the future is going to look like. And yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I think that's all I really had to say. I was thinking about doing a story, but I couldn't find a cool story to react to. But maybe I'll just make a little TikTok. So we'll see how we go. All right, guys. Thank you. Jeez. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. My solos are usually quite short. They're usually about 20 to 30 minutes long. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day. Cheeky plug for myself. So I do, if you're watching the video, I appreciate that so much. If you could just if you could please like and subscribe to the channel, it really goes a long way. If you obviously don't like the content, you don't have to you don't have to subscribe to anything. But if you do, I would really much appreciate that. And for those who are listening as well, if you are listening through Spotify or through iTunes, I would love to have, or if you could please put a 5-star review on the podcast. That it does really push out the reach. When people notice and they see a 5-star review, they're more inclined to click on it. So if you could leave a 5-star review on my Spotify and iTunes podcast pages, that would be great. And I also have an Instagram and a TikTok. And for those who have seen, yes, I made a video and it did very, very well. It's sitting at about 730,000 views. So I'm probably going to be making a little bit more content like that in the future. So stay tuned for that. You Think You Know Cars Part 2 is definitely on the way. And I think we're going to do Growing Up in the 70s and 80s Part 2 as well coming up. I've been getting a lot of feedback from the people listening that's been a big one that a lot of people liked. And I'm probably going to get another person to come on the show. I haven't asked them. I haven't scheduled in a date yet, but that's definitely going to happen. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you in next fortnight. Ciao.